Welcome to the Julie Laughton Living Podcast, the place to get advice, tips, and tricks to building the life and luxury home of your dreams with 30-year business owner, designer, and builder, Julie Laughton. It all starts with a good plan. This is Julie Laughton Living.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Julie Laughton Living Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what causes stress when you do your remodel or your new build. What is all this stress about with remodels? I mean, seriously, everybody gets so stressed out. And I can tell you exactly why it's stressful. So stay tuned. I'm going to tell you all about it. And also, before we get started, don't forget to click on the 7 simple steps. It's my 7 simple steps of how to avoid a nightmare remodel. Well, it's my 7 simple steps to how to have a 5-star experience. And just click on the link below. It's at julielaughtonliving.com, and it's a free course. You just click the link and listen to the 7 simple steps described by me, and they're also listed. You could print them out. But it's a really helpful guideline to keep you on track and avoid stress. As you know, or maybe you don't know, but when you do a remodel or tear your house apart or plan a new home, that whole process of planning and building and working with a team of 7 to 11 people, it's ridiculously stressful because, first of all, the stress level is something you'll probably never experience with this other than the times when you have a death of a loved one or you're planning a wedding, and it's proven, like it's documented, like you can Google it. I think the stress level of a death of a loved one and planning a wedding are probably the top 2 things that cause the most stress in a person's life and a family or a marriage, so you have to be ready for that. And if you aren't ready for that, you shouldn't do the process. You shouldn't even think about it because it requires, the whole process requires you to pay attention and participate, but that doesn't mean you should be destroyed emotionally because you're working with the wrong people. But you need to be part of a process which takes your time, and then it makes you dive deep into your feelings and what you want versus what you don't want. And then if you have a partner or a husband or a wife, you got to agree. And that's where some of the stress comes. So if it's funny because I know couples that have been married 10, 15 years and they can't agree on a paint color. And then this whole weird thing starts to happen. So I'm telling you, it's very stressful, but the way to avoid it is to seriously be prepared and hire the right team. And then I'll go into more detail about what causes the stress, because as we may all know, whenever you have stress, like it's usually because your expectations are different than what the person delivering the service is. So you have to be careful, because if you're trying to, hate to use this word, micromanage and run the show, you got to rely on your professional to run the job, and then you participate in the process, because only one person can set the expectation, and that's your designer, your architect, your contractor. The team sets the guidelines and the expectations, but if you're setting expectations that don't match theirs, and then boom, conflict, anger, resentment, fighting. So that's the number one reason for the stress, is expectations are not clear. So I go out of my way to explain what's going to happen and what's not going to happen day one with my clients. And that's why I have my 7 simple steps. So all I can tell you is that if you're hire someone and you're lost and frustrated the first week or the first month, just hire someone else, because that's what's going to help solve the stress. Or if it's you and you won't possibly listen, and you have your own agenda and you're trying to do it owner builder, or you just think it should be your way and you want to set the timelines and you want to set the deadlines, well, don't do that, because that doesn't work. Again, my big scenario is it's like having a baby and it's going to be 9 months, for example, or whatever the timeline is, and you can't rush it or change the facts of what it takes to get this done. So I can tell you, in my 35 years, the only time I've ever had trouble is when the client doesn't want to participate and the client sets expectations that have nothing to do with what we're actually doing. So that's a little tip. So hire the right team, make sure the expectations and the deliverables are clear day one. Okay, so when you have a remodel, going on and you start this whole process, if you're married or you have a partner, you're going to have to prepare together. So the first thing is prepare. When can we do this? When do we have time to do this? And then to prepare means get together with what are we doing? What do we want? And most couples I notice that are pretty organized, they make a checklist, like they type it out because they don't know how this works. Nobody actually knows how it works. They don't know how much it costs. They're completely lost. But one thing they do good is they make a checklist of everything they want to see and they put it in writing, and then they both agree. And like yesterday, I met with a couple and they had it all written down, and the one did all the talking, but they agreed on every point as they went down their list. So I could see they did their homework and there was no fighting at the table, because I've had clients where they meet with me. This is way back time machine, and they start arguing and yelling at each other in front of me. And that's not only tacky, but that means somebody's not on board. And so either one of them started without the other, or one of them doesn't care about what the other one thinks. So the whole part of starting the process about, avoiding the stress is be on board and do it together and agree when you're going to start and agree on the terms and conditions of everything before you start. So that means you have to have your homework done of what do I want? What do I don't want? And then pull some pictures. And that's all you really need to do for homework before you hire your architect or your designer. And then the rest falls into place through the 7 simple steps, because the design process is getting your dreams out of your head onto paper and then making them professionally perfect and wonderful. And our process is a professionally trained process. But all you got to do is get your dreams out of your head. And then if you have a partner, your dreams got to come together and you got to agree so that you both are happy. And that part can be so stress-free if you just work together and you're gracious about, what the other one wants and feels. And you have to negotiate and decide and settle, eventually, because that's the part that can cause a lot of stress. But if you are, gracious about it and you got to, agree with each other before you submit your ideas to your designer architect. So that's the first step of avoiding stress, is agree on what you want and what you don't want. It's simple. So if you want to avoid a nightmare remodel and not have stress, don't remodel. Just kidding. The biggest thing about remodeling is know what the expectations are. Know what the deliverables are. Know the terms and conditions of the contracts you sign. Do not have something in your head and just pretend that will work. You have to actually know what is going on with each individual you're going to hire and what are their terms and conditions. And then everything should be outlined in advance for you. Like when you start, someone should be giving you a timeline of when you're going to be done sitting in your house, having a glass of wine, enjoying your final product. You need a timeline up front. You need a budget up front. So if you don't know how this works, all you have to do is check out my 7 simple steps at julielaughtonliving.com. Print them out, take the course. It's free. And then you'll have a complete guideline of how all this works. So when you go to do your remodel or build your new home, you'll know in advance what to expect. And that's the secret. Thank you for joining me for this episode, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Julie Laughton Living. For more information or to connect with Julie one-on-one, visit julielaughtonliving.com. And don't forget, it all starts with a good plan.